There's only one place to be on a Sunday night, and that's on Citi TV. It's Scorecard. And on the Ghanaian notes, it's not happy times at all as far as Ghana football is concerned. Ghana's under-23 team, the Black Meteors, they were in Morocco. They were expecting to break that long hoodoo of not making it to the Olympic Games, but guess what? Crashed out in the group stage. There's a lot to talk about. The manager, the players, the preparations generally for the competition, and where Ghana goes from here. Also, on the transfer front, we call it Don't Call Me Out Here. There's a lot going on. Liverpool Football Club are flexing their muscles in the transfer window. Chelsea are raking in a lot of money. They have sold Kai Havertz to Arsenal Football Club. So there's a lot going on as far as the world of football is concerned. Stay tuned here. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, I'll introduce my gentlemen in the studio, and then we can get today's conversation going. And the Citi Sports crew in the studio, Edwin Kwakofi and Yaya Jamita. Gentlemen, it's good to have you on the show.
Good to be here. Good to be here. And happy birthday. Happy birthday. Yeah, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Birthdays always be some way. I don't know.
In the words of DJ Mingo, Charlie, chop life.
Yeah, Charlie.
Chop life.
It's been a good day. I mean, calm, cool, everything. All nice, all nice. Appreciate it.
It's too bad we have to talk about the Black Meteors.
Yo, I know. I mean, the job is the job. What must be done must be done. And for those of you out there watching us at home, we'll display the text and WhatsApp lines on the screen just so you can send in your messages. There you have it there. So you can send in your messages. You can also get to us on Twitter. Use the hashtag Scorecard. Let's start off with the Black Meteors campaign, because it's been interesting. Coach Ibrahim Tanko has apologized to Ghanaians. He says that they were clearly not good enough, but a lot of questions have been raised. Edwin, let me start off with you. I mean, when we were going into that game against Guinea, first of all, what were you thinking? What were you thinking our chances were? And when we crashed out, what have your thoughts been since?
Look, going into the game against Guinea, the one thing that was on my mind was there was no way we can be worse than we were against Morocco, because we were terrible in that game. And they actually proved me wrong. Against Guinea, against a team that is basically on our level. You can say the Moroccans are the toughest team you could possibly face at such a tournament. But against Guinea, a team that we are supposed to match boots for boots, they actually played us off the pitch. And we were the ones who needed a result to go through.
True.
So it was disappointing to see them perform the way they did. After the game, a lot has been made of the GFA's involvement, whether we took the right players, the coach and his influence, what he did during the game, the players themselves. And I think that there's a whole lot. And I feel there are three different reasons why we didn't qualify in this tournament. First, discipline of the players. Absolutely terrible on the pitch. Sometimes you need a lot of discipline when you are taking on tactics like pressing, when you are defending, in midfield, when you are passing. I didn't see any of that throughout the tournament.
And just to even add to that, Asamoah actually referenced this in a post. For him to actually say that, I thought that was actually pretty damning.
Absolutely. And I think we'll go to the second reason, which is the manager. Of course, the coach. You have to give him some of the blame, because everyone praised him after the first game where he made a few tweaks, got the team playing again. But I think throughout the tournament overall, it's been a mess from him. The third thing is you have to mention the lack of key technical personnel, a psychologist for the team. It's absolutely crucial. I don't know if we have that one in the team. I doubt it, because
Prof. Minta used to be a generic psychologist for the national teams. I'm not sure if he travels with the specific teams.
You need to have a person in the team with the squad at all times, because players have different psyches going into tournaments. There are players who don't play for their teams regularly, who come into this tournament looking to prove something. And when you come into a tournament just hoping to play for yourself, it doesn't work out for the team. You need a psychologist to dig into these motivations, mindsets, going into games which are pretty key, like the last game against Guinea.
And also even holding leads.
Exactly.
It's a thing from the Black Stars level right up onto this level.
Exactly. And when you go into a game against Guinea where you need to win, you need your players to be up on their A game mentally, physically, and I don't think they were mentally. After they scored the goal, they seemed to just lose focus. The Ghanaians took over the game, and the second half was pretty much worse. And after they conceded, I didn't see a way back for them into that game. And it's sad to see because 4 years ago, we didn't make it to the Olympics. But that team was more exciting than the one we saw here. And it's sad to see how much...
And we made it to, what, third place
place.
Then
we lost some penalties.
Yeah,
that's fine. It's sad to see how much we've regressed in 4 years, even under the same head coach, same GFA, and it's just terrible to see that we will not be at another Olympics games.
2004, since 2004. That's the last time the Black Stars were at the Olympics. Was Yusuf Chipsa, I think.
Yusuf Chipsa, Samoa Jan, Bafojan, Stephen Appiah, William Thierry.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they were
I don't know the last time I set eyes on William Thierry.
Yeah, William Thierry was in the
retired.
Emmanuel Obuo. Yeah.
Stephen Appiah's son is almost playing pro football now, and we still haven't made it to the Olympics. Let's check out the highlights of that particular game, Guinea versus Ghana. It ended 1-1. In the end, it was not good enough to get Ghana to the next stage. Welcome back to Scorecard. Yeah, let me take your thoughts on a few things. So, Tanko's competence has come into sharp focus. Also, there's the bit about quality of players. So, some people make the argument that the other national teams are way ahead of us, and we can't expect to compete when there's a talent gap. And then there's also the Tanko bit about if he's good enough, because he took us to the third spot the last time. He couldn't make it. It was this close to making it, and now we've retrogressed by a really crazy, margin. Where do we go from here? Where do we lay the blame?
We can lay the blame at the doorstep of so many people because right from the get-go, things went off. You look at the communication mishap, and that's the reason why a guy like Felix Afenajan wasn't part of this team. That's the reason why a guy like Kamaldeen Sulemana wasn't part of this team.
Would they have made a difference?
They would have made a difference because at the Black Stars level, clearly they are not cutting it at the Black Stars level. But at this point, at this level, I honestly believe they would have been able to cut it. And it shows because you look at a guy like Fatau Ishahaku, at the Black Stars level, he doesn't cut it. And his performances have been consistently poor. But at the under-23 level, yes, he had a poor tournament in this one, but it's clear that his performance is way better when he plays at the under-23 level than at the Black Stars level. So clearly, had those two guys and other players who were eligible to also play for the Black Meteors been available, I honestly believe that had the communication been better, they would have been able to come in and improve the overall quality in the team. Then you have to look at the call-ups. Some of the call-ups were a bit questionable in the sense that, okay, yeah, you brought in some players, but if you are going to invite someone from the local side or from the local scene, how is it that you omit a centre-back who helped Midiama to win the Bet Power Ghana Premier League in Nuruddin Abdullahi? How is it that, and looking at our performance in this tournament, looking at the kind of goals we conceded, clearly we had a problem in central defense. When you look at...
We looked nervy. Every time opponents attacked us, we looked like we would concede a goal.
Yes. You look at on the wings, we didn't have enough depth in the front line. You look at a guy like Bechem United, Clinton Diodu. He's one of the best young players on the local scene. How is it that this guy missed out on a call-up to the Black Meteors? And so you look at all these things, it makes you question how this team was even put together. Then you have to look at Coach Ibrahim Tanko as well. Is the motivation right? Is the motivation on point? Because at this point in time, what I know is that the coaches of the national teams, aside the Black Stars and the Black Queens head coaches, they haven't been paid for...
They have no contracts.
They haven't been paid for a very long time. And so this opens the door to a lot of questions. How is it that you are still opposed when you're not getting paid?
How are you motivating yourself to do the job?
How are you motivating yourself to do the job? So all these raise questions. And Ibrahim Tanko, in terms of the organization, that's where it disappointed me. And in his post-game press conference, after we drew with Guinea, he highlighted the same thing I've been highlighting consistently ever since this tournament started, concentration. That after Ghana scored we messed up in terms of concentrating in the game. And for me, that's just not good enough. The coach has to take blame for that because it is your job.
Does he lose his job?
Oh yes, he definitely loses his job. But
this was his chance.
This was his chance because at the end of the day, you had one job to do.
Yeah.
You couldn't get the job done. The performance, which could have been some sort of defense, also didn't go your way because we were terrible. Our performance was flat out terrible. Yeah. We couldn't pass the ball, couldn't sustain possession.
No identity, no pattern.
No identity, no pattern in terms of how we attack, how we defend.
Yeah.
Look at the organization, especially in that game against Morocco. So wide open in the middle. So for me, honestly, there were a lot of things that went wrong. And yeah, there are a lot of people and individuals that we have to lay the blame game at.
I'll just say this to conclude on this matter. I feel like a lot of this is at the heart of structure and a lot of this at the heart of teaching. Now, structure basically because college football has been all over the place. The league barely ever gets finished. People have complained about it. Nothing happens. Also, coaching. I think that we have a big deficiency with coaching. This is not even just a football thing. With athletics, with boxing, how well trained are our coaches? How much updated are they in terms of modern trends of the game? And are they up there? I mean, I'm just looking around at the local scene and I'm asking myself, when was the last time that a local coach took up a job outside the shores of this country, a credible job outside the shores of this country? Look at a guy like Pitso Mosemani, goes to Al Ahly Football Club, does a good job there, heads to the Gulf. He's in high demand. I mean, if he's without a job, you know for a fact that it's deliberate. But I feel like down here it's just a recycle.
Yeah. And the structure is needed to
coaches.
We'll get a Maxwell Konedu, we'll get an Anna Walker, we'll get a
and the structure is needed to be able to guide and train the talent. You touched on talent. Look, let no one lie to any of us. Talent, we have it. We have it in abundance. But it's the way you refine the talent. The talent is there. It's in its rawest form. But if you don't refine it, you won't be able to get the true benefits from that talent. It's just like our natural resources, gold and what have you. We take it in this raw form, we take it outside, they refine it and bring it back to us, and we end up paying extra money to get it.
Everything. Our gold is still in this raw form.
Exactly. So that's the same thing that we do with our we've been doing with our football. If we don't refine the talent can get you so far.
Look, I just think that with the coaching thing, right, and I just will end on this. It's crazy because if you look at certain nations, there's a reason why they don't or they barely ever hire other nationals to coach their national teams. It barely ever happens.
Because there's an identity.
That national team. You are not going to see an Englishman or a German coaching the Dutch national team. It doesn't matter. If you look at the German national team, they are barely ever going outside the shores of their country to go and hire anybody else. And from the way we are going, I look at Ghana 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, and we'll still be hiring expatriates to coach our teams. I feel like there needs to come a point where if you're hiring these big coaches to come to do football in your country, and Avram Grant, he needs to leave an imprint. If you are hiring a Chris Hughton to coach your team, he needs to leave an imprint. There must be a point where our national teams don't go to foreigners any longer. It's not as if I'm xenophobic towards foreigners handling our teams, but these are what serious nations do. I'm just saying.
Exactly, and I feel that our strongest period as a national team, the Black Stars, came after the success of the under 20 team. We have failed to improve our young teams consistently. Under 17, under 20, under 22.
And guess who won that tournament? It was a local coach.
It was a local coach. Yet we've not built on that. Recently, our national team is suffering because the youngsters who were supposed to take over are not being trained well enough, are not being motivated well enough, so they are also faltering. And once we keep that cycle going, I think the national team continues to suffer.
It's a big question. If we say an outfit like Right to Dream Academy is training and churning out brilliant talent, how is it that at the junior level we don't have a prominent contingent of Right to Dream Academy players? Why is it that we don't have a prominent contingent of WAFA? The teams that have the right structure at the juvenile level, how is it that we don't have a high number of those academy players in our junior national team?
Those are questions for the national team handlers to be answered, because honestly, I think that it's actually still a miracle that based on how we've been handling our football, we are still even able to compete, because the rate at which
that's the talent
the countries
level. Because the talent
DNA is great, but we are obviously
it can only get you so far.
Yeah, probably be stuck in the mud at a point. Let's move on with the tournament and let's talk about Congo. They were up against Morocco. Yes, and they managed to win that one. Morocco finishing the group stages unbeaten so far. Let's see if it will be enough to take them all the way to the final and possibly win it. So let's check out the highlights of that particular game, Congo and Morocco. Welcome back. Edwin, let me take your thoughts on that game. So Morocco finishing the group stages unbeaten. Fancy them to win the tournament now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think throughout the 3 games that we've seen them play, they've been very dominant, but they've applied themselves to every single game. Against the first game against Guinea, they played their hearts out, really dominated that game, got the win. Against Ghana, the same, they dominated, got the win. Even when they were through to the next round against Congo, they still played a dominant game and got the results they needed. They didn't lie down and say, okay, we've qualified, let's relax. They knew that if you are going through to the knockout stages of such a competition, you need to make a statement. You need to tell everyone that we are the team to beat. You win all 3 games and show that if you want to go through us, you need to do it the hard way. And I think that they've done so well for themselves. Is it a coincidence that the teams that are performing the best on the continent are the ones whose youth teams are doing pretty well? You look at Morocco, you look at a team like Senegal as well. Mali as well. The youth teams are going far. And you look at the Moroccan team again, there are players in there who were deemed good enough to play for the senior team at the World Cup. And it doesn't get any better than that. They trust those players to anchor the next leg of their development. And I feel we can learn a lot of lessons from them going forward.
A lot of lessons to be learned from them. Let's take a break actually now. A couple more highlights to show you. Niger, they were up in their own game. Egypt as well have been busy in this particular tournament. Egypt are the defending champions of this particular competition. So there's a lot to talk about. There's some transfer news also to break down here as well. We have some numbers. We'll try and make sense of exactly why certain players are moving to certain places. A lot to come on Scorecard. Stay with us. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. Some messages have come through, so let me read those messages before we continue the conversation. Gabriel from Bolga says that that said, our players lack quality, committed players, lackluster players, egoistic, and not really having the people and the nation at heart. In sharp contrast, players in other countries are observed with different attitudes from ours. Okay, so basically saying that our players lack the patriotism and the attitude to play for the national team, even aside the quality that doesn't add up. This one here is from, Charlie, I can't pronounce this name, Sagidi Bodigidi. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, but I hope I got it right, from Suhum. It says, hey, Ghana national football teams are sinking. We can't compare Ghana to Senegal anymore. It says, love my wife, Nancy. I'm not sure the picture at the end of the message, but it's all good. Walter from New Bowie says that, good evening, Ben. Let's speak truth to the GFA. Our game is not progressing. Our national teams are not doing well in tournaments. Let's do something about it. Jason Walter, okay, from New Bowie. Like we said, group stage exit at the AFCON, World Cup group stage exit, and the 23 group stage exit. So this is 3, a hat trick of group stage exits. Sally from Brekum, Sally Al-Hassan from Brekum says, just last week I said our boys should stop dancing and focus on getting an Olympic spot before anything. They like dancing too much. So somebody has a problem with all the behind-the-scenes action in camp. Obo from Tamale says that, good evening, guys. Tanko Ibrahim, dear, he's shown himself the exit door and shouldn't get close to any national team for now. He lacks the presence to be on the touchline. So somebody coming in with his verdict for Tanko there. Adote from Spintex says, good evening, Scorecard crew. We are good. You say trust, we are good. Yes, we are good. Say the failure of the Black Meteors to once again qualify for the Olympics can't be attributed to only one thing. the seemingly unfavorable choices at the FA. Until we revamp the soccer administration to the days of the early 90s and 2000s, we are going nowhere. Adam from Hohoy says it's heartbreaking when you think about the reports, when you think about the sports we love so much. The thing is that it gives us heartbreak from the dirty politics, but enough with the same politics, and it has crept into our game. When football was all about talent 20 years ago, Ghana was up there with the elites. And so a lot of opinions coming in. Keep sharing your thoughts with us. The text and WhatsApp lines are on your screens there, so keep talking to us. Let's get back to the highlights, and let's get to that game between Egypt and Gabon, I believe. That was a very interesting game. They ended 2-0 in favor of Egypt, so let's check out the highlights. So Egypt, their defending champions, moving on. Yeah, I'll just snap thoughts on that one. Egypt doing a clean job over there too.
Yeah, Egypt had a little bit of a slow start, just like Morocco. They kind of struggled to put the ball into the net earlier on in this tournament. But they've warmed themselves into the tournament, and they are playing a little bit freely than the opening round of games that we witnessed. And I think they've warmed themselves into this tournament, and I honestly see them in the final against Morocco, because these are two teams that are sending at the right time. They are picking at the right time. Every time you get into a tournament, you always have that one game that you don't play well, and you always wish...
You're allowed one bad game in three.
You always wish that it comes early, especially at the group stages, and not at the knockout phase, where that bad game can end up costing you a place in the next round. So for me, I think they are over that hump, and those two teams, those two nations are looking good for a place in the final.
Let's get to the final highlight of this one. That game was between Niger and Mali. Mali also have been good across board. National team, under 17, under 20. Again, they are doing it big at the under 23 level. They won that game against Niger. Let's check out the highlights of that game. Yes, so we have the pairings for the semi-finals done. We have Egypt taking on Guinea, and then we have Morocco taking on Mali. So very interesting pairings. Edwin, just snap thoughts on the pairings for the semis. Should be interesting.
Well, I disagree with Yao when he says Egypt are a shoo-in for the final. I feel, looking at how Mali have improved from the first game to the second to the third, I think they will give them a really good shout there. But for the next one, I feel Morocco are pretty much favorites for this tournament. They seem to be the team that has everything well put together, attack, defense. They know when to go at teams. They know when to be pragmatic and defend. And they have a really good coach who is guiding these young players. And I think they are really a special team. I feel that they could very much go all the way.
I just like the way they attack in varied ways. Your typical North African nation will use the wings, but they can play through the middle, and that's what they did to us. They just slice and dice us through the middle, and that's how they got their goals. So for me,
and you know, a team is really good when they can actually break down opponents through midfield play.
Different ways.
Not the fullbacks, not the wingers. Just a number 10 and number 8 actually passing,
running off the ball. That quick interchange of play, quick interchange of passes that led to 3 straight goals that they used to beat us. So for me, honestly, Morocco are really looking good. But looking at the Malians, I think their size will pose a huge problem to the Egyptians. But
everybody looks like they are like 6'2", 6'2" minimum on that Mali team.
I kid but they tend to waste too many chances up front, and so I think that's where the slight advantage for Egypt will come in, and I think that's where
I feel like they have a point to prove. They've become a nearly team, bridesmaids for a minute. Always make it to the semis, make it to a final, just never
third place always, but never actually get to the final and win the thing. But I feel this team has a good chance. I've seen them play in a couple of games, and they look really strong, especially defensively. They really know how to keep teams out, and that is really important when you want to win a tournament. Defense wins championships.
But Ben, just a quick one. We are running out of time. But the thing is, you touched on structure and the role that coaches can play in developing our players. And I look at the goal we scored against Guinea. You look at Isahaku, the role he played in that goal. That's where structure comes in. in his rawest form, Isahaku is a brilliant talent. He tops the chart on every level. But the structure, how to guide him, where to do
tactical discipline,
when to do what, when to shoot, when to pass. In our 2 previous games, in that lead up to that Guinea game, in that position, Fatawu Isahaku would have shot the ball. He wouldn't have passed. He wouldn't have passed the ball to Emmanuel Yeboah or to the guy who was closest to him. But clearly, you can clearly see that Ibrahim Tanko and Godwin Trump worked on him. They spoke to him and they guided him that these are the phases that you need to go through before you attempt a shot. And in that position, he just squared the ball to Emmanuel Yeboah, who was free because he had attracted all the attention of the defenders. He just placed the ball in his path and he slotted the ball into the net. That is structure. That is coaching. And I wanted to see more of such things being done. Unfortunately, it just came in spurts and we weren't able to make use of it and qualify to the next stage.
We'll see where we go from here. I genuinely want to hear from the coach and the players when they come down, perhaps from the leadership, the management committee person, the FA boss. Let's see where we go from here. Let's get to some transfer. We call it Donkomi, and I'd love to have my bell here, but let's start off from Liverpool and RB Leipzig. They have done a big deal. The word is that RB Leipzig were initially not interested in selling Hungarian attacking midfielder Dominik Szoboszlai, but Liverpool were keen on this deal and so paid the release clause, 70 million euros or 60 million pounds. Now that money looks like will be scrutinized for a bit. Liverpool's rivals say that there's a myth that Liverpool don't spend to get players. But there you have Dominik Szoboszlai on your screen there. You have his numbers as well. Appearances in all competitions. You have appearances for this season, actually. So you have 46 goals, 10, assists, 13, yellow cards, 4, red cards, 1, and over 3,700 minutes played. Let me start off with you on this one. Huge transfer for Liverpool. In the context of players that have left and players that are coming in, what exactly are they trying to do, and why have they spent this much on this guy whom a lot of people don't seem to know?
Well, last season, Liverpool went through a phase where they were really struggling for results. And it's not because they didn't have a good team. Liverpool have probably one of the best goalkeepers in the world. They have a defense that any other team would die for. They have a front line that's filled with some of the top attacking talent in Europe. The one thing that hurts them was midfield. They had players who were constantly getting injured in Naby Keita and in Thiago Alcantara, players that were old and didn't have the legs to run in, Jordan Henderson and James Milner, and players that were just young enough and not experienced enough, Harvey Elliott and other players. So they needed to bring in reinforcements, people who could hit the ground running, who could start games. And they've got 2 absolutely brilliant talents in Alexis McAllister and especially Dominik Szoboszlai. I think that Klopp was looking for Milner in terms of utility, and he's got an upgrade on James Milner. Szoboszlai, in Dominik Szoboszlai, because this is a player who can play all across the midfield and even pop up front if you want. He is fantastic passing wise. His set piece is amazing, and he offers a real goal threat that Liverpool really need. He gives you an average of probably 6 goals, 8 assists every season. Those are his numbers for the last couple of seasons in the Bundesliga with RB Leipzig. So you are guaranteed to get goals. And that is exactly what Liverpool got with James Milner in his first few years. I know fans will say that in his latter years, he became old, couldn't run, couldn't compete. But in his first few years, he was superb for Liverpool. And I think Klopp identified Szoboszlai as the player to take his midfield forward. He's clearly seen that.
He's what, 21?
Yeah,
21, 22?
He's really young. And Klopp knows that midfield is the way to go. I think with Champions League football, they might have got Mason Mount as well. and he knows what he wants. He knows how to get there. A lot of players want to come to the Liverpool system and work under Jurgen Klopp, work with players like Mo Salah, work with players like Jota, because they know the quality that is around them in the team. Once they get into the team, you are guaranteed to be involved in goals and assists, and they've got one of the best players, best midfielders in Europe who can complement that quality that they have in that team and take them to the next level. Missing out on the Champions League was a big deal for Liverpool. They want to get back into that competition as soon as possible, and this is a player who has played a few times in the Champions League, has Champions League experience, has experience at the top level in the Bundesliga, and good for Liverpool. He also has experience in the Europa League, which they are playing in, so he will be very influential in that tournament as well.
Brilliant thoughts there. Your thoughts on Szoboszlai again and the grand scheme of Liverpool's transfer business?
To improve that midfield, because that was the area of weakness in the last campaign.
People say that Liverpool need a 6. I mean, Fabinho is still around, but he's not at the level. And Liverpool have bought McAllister. He's not exactly a 6. They bought Szoboszlai. He's not exactly a tackler either. So what is Klopp doing?
I think basically, I think it's a theme that runs through this transfer window. Like, teams are doubling on their strengths to cover up their weaknesses. So you look at a team like Manchester City. They are doubling down on their strength. Defenders that can pass from the back, that are ball carriers. They already have John Stones. They already have Manuel Akanji. They already have Ruben Dias. They already have Nathan Ake. But they are now going in for Josko Gvardiol. You look at Man United, they have Bruno Fernandes, and they've gone in for Mason Mount to double down on what they are doing. You look at Arsenal, they play with false nine, they play with guys who can play across the front line. They've gone in and signed Kai Havertz. So they are doubling down on their strength in order to cover up for their weakness. And that is what Liverpool is also following. And I think the presence of McAllister and Szoboszlai is to serve as a bridge between the old and the new, because and you need that, because at this point in time, a guy like Stevan Bajcetic, he's too young to be able to play at the elite level. A guy like Javier Elliott, he's developing, but he's not yet elite. But on the flip side, you have Fabinho and Henderson, who are on the way down. So once you have McAllister and Szoboszlai, who are 23, 24, and in their prime, they serve as that bridge. And that's what you need to be able to go to that next level.
Okay, so we'll take another break here. Let me read a few messages just before we go. A couple more transfers to talk about. I want to talk about Kovacic to Man City, because that's a very curious transfer for me. I want to know exactly what Pep Guardiola is cooking with that move. This one here is from John from Santasi. Says, guys, Ghana football, if the fundamentals are wicked, the economics will expose you. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on here. Mustafa Wakaso from Salaga in the Savannah region says, hi, Ben and team. It's always a pleasure to see you guys every Sunday. God bless you and your good work. Big ups to my G, Yao Minta. So, getting some props over there. Nee from Taifa says, good evening to you guys. Ben, as a nation, we have to understand the quality of football is low. Definitely, we have seen what we have seen in the other national teams. We need to do something about our football development now. Okay, so I'm not happy there. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get into Kovacic, we'll get into a bit of Mount, and then Kai Havertz. What exactly is Mikel Arteta cooking with that signing? 60 million, that's a lot of money for a player who's been deemed a flop. All that to come on Scorecard. Stay with us. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. From the camp of Liverpool, let's now go to Manchester City. They are doing some interesting business. They have signed Mateo Kovacic, £25 million from Chelsea. Edwin, what's going through Guardiola's mind? That looks like a midfield that's already packed. Calvin Phillips has barely played football for Man City. They are adding Kovacic to the team, and he's been injury-prone during his time at Chelsea. So what exactly is the thinking behind this?
He has, and I think it's the injury started in the last couple of seasons. But I feel that Guardiola had an idea that Gundogan might be going. Kovacic just slots in there. He's a good passer, so he fits into Man City's system. He's a carrier of the ball, so he's able to move forward with the ball, beat players on the dribble, go forward. What he lacks, where Gundogan wins, is the goal threat. But we've seen even with Croatia that Kovacic can't score.
He can strike.
He can strike a ball.
Just doesn't score enough.
He doesn't score enough, and I think this is where he takes his game to the next level under Man City, under Pep Guardiola. And I feel he's a fantastic signing for them. He is one that adds another dimension for them. Somebody who carries the ball from midfield into attack. We have a lot of passes, a lot of people who can spot a long-range pass. Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, they had Gundogan before. Now we have a player who can take the ball from midfield if the passes are becoming too many, go direct and beat players and create space for City to have another dimension to the attack. So I'm pretty for this.
All for this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another transfer. Time running out, so we'll try and breeze through the transfers. Mason Mount set to join Man United. So he has 1 year left on his contract. It looked like United were not going to buck. They eventually caved in and they paid the money. 60 million. That's a lot of money for a player with 1 year left on his deal. Just touch on this. I'll let Edwin have a bite of this, but just touch on this for me. Why is United getting Mason Mount for that much money? Could they not have found another specialist for this kind of money?
Yeah, ideally, I would have loved if Man United had gone in for Moises Caicedo. Because if you have Caicedo in there and you have Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes flanking him, I think that's the perfect balance, because you have Bruno Fernandes affecting the game more attacking-wise. Then you have Casemiro also affecting the game from midfield, defensive-wise. But they've gone in for Mason Mount, and what that basically means is that you have Casemiro play more as the pivot, then you have Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount flanking him. And it's needed, because at this point in time, you look at Man United's starting lineup last season, it was Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, and Christian Eriksen. Bruno Fernandes will turn 29 in September. Casemiro is over 30 years. Christian Eriksen is over 30 years. And you need a lot of mobility, you need a lot of energy from your midfield to be able to play in Erik ten Hag's team. And that is something that Man United lacked at various points in the season. And it caused Man United a lot of points, because the level of concentrations dropped and teams were able to punish them. So for me, Mason Mount coming in, he's not the guy I would have don't commit to Man United, but he coming in helps Man United, because he's also a younger Bruno Fernandes, an all-action kind of midfielder, and he helps out the team overall.
What's his best attributes? I mean, what can you get out of him specifically that Chelsea haven't gotten out of him, for United?
I'm a huge Mason Mount fan, and I feel that Chelsea got the best out of him a couple of years ago. Everyone focuses...
He was MVP for Chelsea, I
Yes,
think
he was. He's been MVP for Chelsea 2 times, and he was very instrumental in Chelsea's Champions League win. I feel that everyone talks about his ability to press. He works really hard, and he does. He will complement United's defensive efforts in midfield. He presses well. He tackles really well. He's an all-action guy, as Yao Mensah said. But one thing everyone overlooks is his technical ability. Mason Mount is actually a very good dribbler. He can pass well as well. He's a very good, he shoots really well. On set pieces,
I've seen him score some really good goals.
On set pieces, he's also very decent. That's corners and free kicks. So he adds a lot to United's attack. I'm actually disappointed Chelsea let him go, because over the last few years, he's been improving. Last season was an outlier.
Do you think that was a fit problem, as in he didn't fit into their plans, or you thought
there was chaos all over?
No, so you think they didn't,
and he was injured too.
It's a money issue. Like, why would Chelsea let a player like that go?
Well,
especially with Kante leaving.
Exactly.
And then also, I think we just spoke about Kovacic also leaving.
Zakaria also leaving.
Well, the contract talks between Mason Mount and Chelsea went on for quite a while. Before the World Cup, everything seemed to be going well, and then in February, things just got, because a new manager came in, a lot of changes. A new owner came in. There are lots of changes, and Mason Mount wasn't ready to wait. The club also were willing to let him go because, as you said, limited time on his contract. He could fetch a lot of money. But then they appointed Mauricio Pochettino, who really wanted Mason Mount. But by that point in time, his head had been turned by United. He talked to Ten Hag, wanted to be part of that project. And Chelsea weren't really offering the amount of money that United he felt he deserved. And I felt that he's on par at Chelsea with Reece James. So he should probably earn as much as Reece James. The club were hesitant to give him that much. And of course, United being in the Champions League just sealed the matter. He wanted to work under Ten Hag, and they've got a really good player.
Let's wrap it up with Kai Havertz. Again, I'm still scratching my head. He's been played as a number 10, as a right winger, as a number 8. He's not really flourished, but Arteta seems to have a plan for him. Let's check out his numbers. Just snap thoughts, both you and Edwin, just snap thoughts on Kai Havertz. What's going on with him? This is one of the more puzzling signings for me.
Yeah, and I would have loved us to see us now going for a recognized striker, because that's what they really need at this point in time. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, they are doubling down on what they do so well and what they did so well last season, having guys who can play across the front line. People look at Gabriel Jesus and they think he's a guy who plays through the middle, but Gabriel Jesus in an interview has exclusively said that he prefers to attack the goal from the left side so that he can cut infield onto his right foot. And it's the same thing with Leandro Trossard. It's the same thing with Gabriel Martinelli. It's the same thing with Kai Havertz. So for me, Kai Havertz will do same. They'll double down on that. And on top of that, he brings a different dimension kind of, because he's 6'2", 6'3".
Very tall.
And he's very good in the air. So he will give them an aerial presence and a guy who can really head the ball.
We'll see how that move plays out. Kai Havertz to Arsenal. A lot of these transfers will be discussed as and when we progress towards the start of the season. Thank you very much, Edwin. Thank you very much, Yao. Jamie, it has been absolutely wonderful hanging out with you guys. Thank you guys out there for sending us messages. Same time next week, Scorecard will be back on your screens. There will be a repeat of this show tomorrow, so do look out for that at 1 p.m. So until then, enjoy the rest of your evening and bye-bye.